Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm super pumped to bring on a guest of mine who I met at a podcasting conference. Super fantastic meeting so many great people at conferences in general, but then you meet great people that you can bring on your show, which is even better. So I'm bringing on a successfully unemployed podcaster, real estate investor, all these other things as well. I have Justin Skinner on with me. Hey, Justin, thank you so much for being on the show.
Dustin, thanks for having me.
We were at the conference and I'm wearing my shirt that says successfully unemployed. You want the same one I'm wearing now, if you guys can see the video. And you just stopped and said, "Hey, I like your shirt." And that started the conversation. So just having a conversation, like starting an initial conversation is always fantastic. If you go to any conference, like just start the conversation. If somebody's jerk, you'll figure it out really quick and you can move on. If not, just, start the conversation. So it's great having you on. So could you tell us basically, how do you provide for yourself and your family without working that dead end job, that just over broke job?
Yeah, and I'll answer that. I want to add to the shirt too. I loved your shirt, and that was like the reason why I stopped. Is one of those double takes. I was walking by and I saw you, and I thought, "Oh, that's a cool shirt." And then it took me like 2 seconds to realize what it actually said, and then I went back and I was like, "Love your shirt." So anyway, the shirt did the trick. It was I love the
Sweet.
title of it. I love everything. So, to answer your question, what do we do to provide for ourselves? So we're in real estate. We have a lot of income from real estate, and then we also have income from, we were in graphic design for about 10 years, and we owned a company. And so we did stock photography, and we also had our hand in some apps, so app development. So we had a couple of projects that we still get royalties to this day. So for the most part, other than those, I'm doing commercial real estate, so we'll get commissions from that. But I would say our freedom money comes from our real estate and our royalties.
And you have some Airbnb, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, we do several. I think we've got 11 or 12 Airbnbs. Most of them we cater to like traveling nurses. And then the others, we've got a couple on the lake that we rent out more for, vacationers and things like that. But yeah, we stumbled upon the Airbnb model early in our real estate investing career, and we've loved it ever since.
That's fantastic. And now, since you have now also been helping other people in a sense with your podcast, so you have the podcast. Is there anything else online that you're doing, or is the podcast just more of like an outlet to meet great people as well as get good stories out there?
Yeah. I've got the podcast called the Professional Failure Podcast. And then I've got the book. I wrote a book in April as well called Professional Failure. So those are out there. I would say that both of those are far from making me any money. So it's more of a passion project. But it's really fun to hear stories from other entrepreneurs, and we've interviewed teachers and all the way up to multimillionaires. So it's been fun to see that not just business, but just the wisdom of life come through in some of those interviews.
Now, before we jump into any more, I really am curious about the idea, because when you told me about your podcast, at least the title name being Professional Failure, I was like, you know what? I didn't even have to really think too much about it. I didn't even have to ask questions because I know I learned so much more from my failures. And those literally stick in my brain, and I can't get those out because it hurts. I hate failing in a sense where I don't like being wrong. I don't like doing things wrong. I love doing things right and being successful. But when I am, a failure, or I do something that fails, it really makes me learn a huge lesson. So I appreciate my failure. So I just got to say, I think it's a fantastic way that people can actually learn so much more from other people, because there's a saying, a smart man learns from his own mistakes. A wise man learns from other people's mistakes. So I love that you have that podcast, and I've already listened to some episodes now, and it's just great learning from other people's mistakes.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. And I know I would have people, several years ago, and they'd look at, either the success we have in real estate or where we're at, and being entrepreneurs, and they're like, "How do you get there?" I feel like you're, an overnight success, or all these things. And in reality, when I was looking back, it really was these small little stories of failures throughout my life that I learned from, and I just kind of stored away. So that's been the fun part too, as we're going along, kind of reliving some of these stories of failure and remembering back to when I made that conscious decision of, man, I failed at that, but I'm not going to in the future. Like I'm gonna remember that going forward, and that's going to add to my success or wherever we are. So those little stories of failure, I know we all have them, and that's the fun part of failures. It just connects us. So no matter what type of business you're in, or what season of life you're in, we all have these stories of failures. So that's been really fun to learn from other people.
Well, let's do this. Let's jump into your story of failure, in also leading into what you're doing now, how you have real estate, how you have obviously the business now with the podcast and everything like that. Tell us about that story, and then you leading into where you are now, where you're successfully unemployed.
I'll go back a ways. I'll go back to when I was two, and honestly, I think the seed was planted for me when I was really young. My dad introduced me to baseball, and I loved baseball. I always wanted to play professional baseball. So ever since I was two, I that was my goal. That was just what I was training for. What all my disciplines and character. I was just trying to get to that moment. So wound up playing a lot in grade school and middle school, and that led to high school, and had some success there. Got recruited to college, and then played in college and had some success in college as well. So I just thought all were opening to playing professional baseball, and kind of fast forward through my college career. Had a really good senior season and into my junior year, and wound up having a tryout with the Cubs. And they wound up saying, "Hey, we like you. Here's a draft number. We'll talk to you on draft day." So I think for me, all the doors seemed like they were opening, and life and whatever you want to call it was just kind of lining up, where I thought this is my next step in life. I just got married, and so we were planning for what that looked like. And kind of long story short, didn't wind up getting drafted on draft day, and it hurt really bad. I remember watching the draft, and then the moment I realized it wasn't going to happen, I kind of shut my laptop and just cried, and it was pretty tough. But it was one of those moments where I feel like it led to the book, it led to the podcast. It was a moment of failure because honestly, it was 18 years of grinding and sacrificing to get to that moment, and when that door was shut, it hurt. But in that moment, I kind of stepped back and realized that I could either look at it and look at myself as a big failure, or I can transition into a new season of my life. And for some reason, I had peace about not playing baseball anymore, even though it hurt. So I kind of moved on, and Kendra, my wife, was really supportive at the time and said, "Hey, if you want to go play independent ball or travel, I'm there for you. I'm with you." So that was really helpful. But for some reason, I just knew that maybe I was meant to do something else, even though I had no idea what that was at the time. But I know it planted a seed in my mind, and maybe somewhere or some way I can encourage others to say, in your moments of failure where you feel like a big failure, whatever that is, there's probably another door that's going to open for you. So don't let those failures weigh you down. Just look at them more of as a lesson, and a transition to a new season of life.
So with that, you now, like, was it during that time that you decided to start investing in buying, properties and start doing that? Was it after? How did that transition into you now being able to get real estate as well as anything else that you really want to do in order to to become successfully unemployed?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I went the job route right after that happened. So I was like banging down doors. How do I get a job? I was graduated from college, had a degree. So in my mind, I'm thinking I got to go get a job. I got to do this. So I wound up having a friend who I got turned down by so many jobs out of college, and it confused me so much because I'm like, I have a degree. I've literally like I had a design degree. No one would hire me. Everyone's like, oh, you need experience. I'm like, well, that's why I went to college. It was really frustrating, to be honest. But I actually wound up. I had a friend who owned his family owned a gas station and like a popcorn company. So I wound up. He had a spot. I popped popcorn for like 6 months in the back of this gas station, and Ozark Mountain Popcorn is what it's called. I still love it. Still love the family. Still runs it. And I still see them. I buy it, at Christmas every year. But anyway, I did that for 6 months, and so he, one of my good childhood friends came through and just stepped in and said, "Hey, we can use help here." So kind of did that. Went on to another job, and then fast forward to that, we had kind of been working on the side doing design stuff. So in the back of our minds, we always thought, we'd love to work for ourselves and not be employed by others. And we came to the moment where I actually got fired from my job. And I think it was a good kick in the butt from none other than God, and he was kind of pushing us out the door. So from that moment, that morning when I got fired, Kendra and I went out and we found a spot, and we basically decided that day that we really didn't want to work for anyone else again. We didn't want to put our careers in the hands of someone else. And there's a lot of people that do that, and there's nothing wrong with it. But for us, we just made that decision. We wanted to bet on ourselves. So from that point forward, we started a design company, and we were in the building. We found an old beat up building in downtown Springfield, We fixed it up, came to an agreement with the landlord, and about 3, 4 years in, actually, he came to us and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about selling the building. Would you guys like to buy it?" And that was honestly the moment we fell into real estate. We really didn't know much at that time, and it just made sense. The numbers made sense. We had tenants upstairs. So we bought the building. Specifically, I think he wound up selling to us for $320,000, which was a lot of money for us at the time. And it's one of those things where, again, the numbers made sense. We had a piece about it, and we bought it. We were both on the same page. We bought it, and then we wound up, I don't know, 6 months later, starting an Airbnb. It was early with Airbnb. We found the magic and we fell in love with real estate, and we just kept buying real estate. We kept buying other Airbnbs, and the plan the whole time was just to offset and kind of balance our income. Because I've always heard, and I learned that a millionaire has 7 different streams of income. So I wasn't really on the track, or I didn't necessarily want to be a millionaire. I just knew we had to be spread out in how we were making income if we wanted to be successfully unemployed.
So, what are your? Can you give us the different streams of income that you have now?
Yeah, yeah. So first one, I may miss some too. So the first one is we've got still stock royalties. So we've got 4 or 5 different royalty sites that come in. Do you want me to give you specific amounts, or how do you want me to do
If you're
that?
up to it, yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great, but you don't have to.
Yeah, so I would say anywhere on the stock photography stuff, anywhere from 1,000 to I don't know, 5,000 a month. It kind of fluctuates,
For all of
and
them.
for all of them combined. Yeah, and then we've got some app royalties and other business royalties we get that fluctuate anywhere from 2 to 5,000. Again, it just kind of depends on the month. And then real estate, honestly, we probably, I don't know, from a month to month, we probably gross, and I don't know what the net would be, but we're probably grossing anywhere from 15 to 20,000 a month on real estate. So it definitely provides for us a good income, and it more importantly, it just provides freedom for us to do what we want to do. And like I said, show up in Orlando, meet you. It just gives us flexibility and kind of peace of mind.
Yeah, being able to do what you want with your own time as opposed to trying to get time off from work or something like that, like creating something passively, that passive income that you've created, everything from the stock photography to the real estate investing, even having a podcast. If you put a podcast episode out there, you have a sponsor, then you're going to be able to make money passively, which is so much better than working an hour and then getting paid for the hour, like an active employment. We don't want to do that. So, with having passive income, it seems like, well, let's just look at the stock photography because I personally think, man, that's literally working one time and then getting paid over and over again. Like if you take pictures. Now, it seems to me it would be very, very hard. Like you're going to need a lot of pictures, a lot, just to get, let's say, anybody even buying your pictures as opposed to making $1,000 to $5,000. If we wanted to get started doing the stock photography, is it something like as easy as getting a camera and finding websites that sell them, or how would we get started doing that?
Yes, I would encourage anyone to do that. It really is as simple. Honestly, we shoot stock photography now, and we did back then too. You can shoot it with your iPhone now, so you can find a site, you can get accepted. You do have to apply on most sites, but you can shoot photography on your iPhone. And I've literally done it before, where I've taken a picture on my iPhone and uploaded it to the site within like 5 seconds. So that barrier to entry has definitely lowered, but it's like anything, you really have to take it small steps at a time. And it's like I grew up on a farm, so I always do farm analogies, but it's a lot like planting seeds. I mean, you have to plant seeds with stock photography, and you have to know that whatever you plant today may not come to harvest for 6 to 9 months, but you just don't get discouraged. Like keep uploading, keep set goals of I'm going to upload 5 to 10 photos today, and then I'm going to do that tomorrow and tomorrow. And it's a compound effect. So I think the first month we did it, we went out, we bought camera equipment, and we actually did it to kind of again offset whenever we weren't doing client projects. I didn't want to just be sitting around, so I said, hey, Kendra, how about we do stock photography? That way we can fill our time, when we're at the office, and we'll do this when we don't have client work. That's how it started. And I think the first month we did it, we wound up, spending thousands in camera equipment. In the first month, we made 27 cents. And Kendra looked at me and was like, "What are you like? What is happening? Like, is this really anything?" And again, it's this compound effect. And I think month two we made like $1.20, and then the next month it was $5, and then 10, and it was just this slow and steady growth. And that would be, if I could encourage anyone, just remember that slow and steady growth. That's what you want. You don't want to just have something that immediately overnight you make hundreds of thousands of dollars, because I really feel like it's not going to teach you anything. So with that, with stock photography, yeah, just grab your iPhone, find a site. You can do Shutterstock, iStock. Some of those are bigger and maybe they're harder to get into, but there's smaller ones, more niche ones like Lightstock, the one that we're a part of. It's more of a niche Christian church-based stock site. You can do that. But again, just start digging into it. I bought several books, and then grab your iPhone. You don't have to go out and buy a ton of fancy equipment. Grab your iPhone, start figuring out what people want, study that, and then start uploading. Start small and go from there.
Do you have to be really good with taking pictures and like you said, get that? Well, not getting thousands of dollars because you have your iPhone. You have a cameras nowadays on phones are really it's
Yeah.
pretty amazing what they could do. But with that, do you have to really learn how? It seems like you should learn what people are looking for and what are selling and what kind of shots
Yes.
that look good as opposed to look horrible. Because when I have my wife take pictures, they look pretty bad. When I take pictures, they look at least better. At least I try to make it look better because I think I have a little eye. My wife is just like, oh, okay, let's just, the camera's crooked. Let's take a picture. Not to bag on her, but she doesn't take the pictures in the family. I do. So what should we do? Should we take classes or just look on stock
Yeah.
photography sites and see what other people are doing?
That's a great question. Yes, that's a big thing too. It's another story of failure. Early on, when we were taking pictures and uploading them, we got rejected all the time, and it hurt because you upload something and like, no, this picture's not good enough. And so it's one of those things where you have to go back, and it's a learned skill. I will be completely honest with you. I was not this like amazing picture taker early on. I learned from courses online. I learned from books. I learned from seeing good photos, what people were searching for, and then just putting that in my mind. So in all honesty, I was a terrible photographer when I started out, but the more you do it and the more you see what people are looking for, the better you'll get. So again, when people hear that, oh, you're a stock photographer, you're making thousands of dollars a month from stock photography. Well, the secret is I wasn't a good photographer. It was a bunch of trial and error and a bunch of learning. So yeah, get books. There's tons of online courses you can get. And there's a lot of different avenues that you can increase your knowledge and your artistic eye for photography.
So would you continue or do you continue to take more pictures? Is that something that you try to do? Because it seems like, I mean, if you are at all, if you had that skill and you could just take a picture one time and upload it again, might as well keep doing it. But what are your thoughts about growing that business and trying to scale it up to where you could become successfully unemployed with that?
Yeah, I would say again, start small. But yeah, as far as us, we don't do as much as we used to, because we just kind of turned our attention elsewhere. But yeah, I mean, we became successfully unemployed through stock photography. I mean, it wasn't real estate. We had some side business as well, but honestly, the stock photography gave us um, that cushion, or that foundation to go out and take more risks in business, or not have to go out and get a ton of business overnight. We could again like form relationships and not go out and just have to beg for work. So at one point, honestly, our stock photography paid all our bills, and then paid, when we owned the building, it was paying our mortgage on our commercial building as well. So we were definitely successfully unemployed through stock photography. So it can work.
So with podcasting or YouTubing, like eventually, if you stop producing, it'll eventually die off. Like if you stop putting out a next episode, you stop putting out the next video on YouTube, it'll eventually die off. Is that similar with stock photography, or is it because it's there, they'll continually find it over and over again, or other new people will, or do you have to keep feeding it like these other mediums?
Yeah, you have to keep feeding it. We still get some royalties, but for us, it was when we were like heavily, I think we had a goal of 300 to 500 images per month. And when we were hitting that consistently, I mean, we saw consistent growth. And I think I came up with, I'm kind of sometimes a numbers nerd. So I came up with this like formula that we could expect to make the next month like 25 cents per photo that we uploaded. So that was kind of the rhythm. So if we're uploading, 500 photos, we're going to add $100 next month. And so it's just a stacking effect. So we got up to one point, I think we, 2 or 3 months in a row, we had passed where we got $10,000 in 1 month from royalties, which we were just blown away. I mean, again, we went from 27 cents to 10,000 in 1 month, and just it's crazy to think about, but it happened. But again, going back to that, when we stopped kind of feeding and uploading new photos every month, it did slow down. So it's been like a big bell curve. When we were uploading and really involved in it, the royalties kept coming in, and as we've stepped away, they've definitely slowed down. So
Do these sites, do they give you like a suggested dollar amount or however many cents or whatever it is per photo, or do you get to mark your own, or is every site different?
every site is different. So there's some membership sites, there's some sites that only do credits. So you kind of just have to look at their royalty structures too. Like Shutterstock and iStock are two of the biggest, and they barely pay you anything. So some of these smaller ones, like the niche ones, it's more like a partnership, and you get paid, 50-50. If someone buys a photo for $10, you get a $5 royalty from that. So we like the niche sites, honestly, because I mean, you can make a lot of money, and there's a huge customer base on the big sites. We just loved and kind of gravitated to the niche sites because of that. But yeah, every site's different. There's a creative market site, which that's another stream of income. We still have them up there, but we design templates. So whenever other designers are designing, they can download a brochure template or something like that and use. On those sites, you can actually set your own price, and then you get anywhere from a 40 to 60% royalty depending on what that site is.
I mean, if you're doing 500 a month, 500 pictures a month,
Yeah.
would it be at all wise to start your own stock photography website and literally just have your own pictures and have other people submit and create your own, like, what, Shutterstock or whatever it is? Would that be at all something that you should look into?
Yeah, we looked into it, but we just love the partnership model because there's so much that goes into a website. I know you're very aware of that. There's so much work that goes on the back end. We just wanted to focus on taking the pictures, making them look good because we're dealing with models and shoots and all this. We don't have to deal with the website as well. So we just felt like all in all, we could focus more on producing, and then we let the content creators and the website creators run their. So they focus on the website, they focus on marketing and all that. So it was really with Lightstock. We still have those friends to this day, and they're still mentors to this day. But we just wanted to focus on what we were good at, and then let them focus on what they were good at, and it worked out to be really just a great partnership.
So if somebody were to get started and let's say they said, you know what, I know Justin and Kendra, what they did was they started going 300 to 500 a month. And let's say they wanted to work their way up. Let's say they want to get started, and in 3 months, they want to get their way to, by the third month, that they're putting 300 photos in a month. And to say also, and this caveat, is that these pictures are accepted and they are in a quality like they would want, somebody would buy it. How quickly would somebody go, not saying from 27 cents to 10,000, but like how quickly can somebody start making substantial money where, if you have a car payment, $400, that's a car payment. You make some money to make up that car payment. What are your thoughts? Like, is it like you said, a formula? Just keep putting in 300 to 500 a month. Like, how soon could somebody really see some substantial income from all the stuff for photography?
Yeah, that's a great question too. Yeah, I would say for us, I mean, just speaking from experience, again, it's like anything I do, and I think it's something I've been taught. You just break it up into little chunks. So I would say within 3 months, let's say for us, honestly, which we don't even we don't even have this anymore, but the very first thing we wanted was, I was like, I want to cover my Netflix bill. It was like $9.99, which we don't even have a Netflix bill anymore. But that was the first goal. So you hit that first goal. I think by month 3, we had $10 a month. Like for the whole month, we hit that. I'm like, this is awesome. Okay, let's go next to our phone bill, and that was like $50 a month. And then you just kind of keep stair stepping. You hit these little goals, because I do believe that we definitely need encouragement along the way, and you need to be hitting these little goals. But then going backwards, when early on, you have to expect to fail. You know that you're going to do that. Like I said, the first couple of months, we had so many photos rejected, and sometimes it was maddening because we see it like, this is the best photo we've ever taken, but to someone else who's been doing it for years and curating, it's like, hey, that's not good enough yet. And it wasn't this I don't know, it wasn't on us and saying that we were like terrible people or, we shouldn't do this. It was just, it was part of the system. So I think you just have to expect that as you're going. So as you're starting month one, expect to fail hard. So expect to just get rejected constantly and just know that's part of it and then learn from it. They'll give you feedback on why it was rejected. Take that to heart and then try and do better on the next one. So by month two, I would say you could probably start getting more photos accepted. And then by month three, once you kind of get the flow of things and you see what people are looking for, maybe what's selling, then you can really start thinking about, okay, well, I can work towards that phone payment. And then month four, okay, I'm gonna save up and I'm gonna pay two phone payments, or I'm gonna move on to my car payment and then my house payment. So I would say honestly, if you can be consistent over a year doing that month in, month out, and just know it's going to be slow, by the end of the first year, I could almost guarantee you could have enough money in a monthly income to be paying your mortgage.
That sounds amazing. I mean, for most people that are just working a regular day job, you know, trading in an hour for money, it is so much work. Like you can't do it over. You have to do it over and over again. Eventually, you're going to die or retire, or you can't do it anymore, and then all the money runs out. So, man, that is awesome. Now, Justin, I know people are going to want to check out your podcast. I definitely suggest everybody should. How can people find you online and see everything that you're doing and reach out to you?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, you can find me I'm on Instagram or Twitter. I'm at Justin C. Skinner. You can find the website. It's www.professional-failure.com. And that's got all the links to the podcast and my social links. And then actually, we kind of talked about this down at Orlando. People are like, "Oh, you got to get on TikTok." I'm not a TikTok fan. I hope and pray I never have to get on TikTok. So I'm not on TikTok. So I hate to bust people's bubbles, but I just can't do TikTok.
No, when I got on there the first time, because somebody told me, like another influencer said, you really got to be on TikTok. So I tried it. I couldn't get past all the, 15-year-old dancing girls. I was like, dude, after about 5 minutes, I was like, I can't stand this. I'm getting off. And they said, well, you didn't give it long enough. You got to give the algorithm, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't care. I'm
Yeah,
done with that. I'm done. I'll stick to my podcasting and YouTube. That's what I'll stick to. Man,
exactly, exactly.
Justin, it's been great having you on the show. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else? I know we are almost wrapping up, but it just seems like, is there any other failure in everything you've done with this stock photography that we should know before we jump off of this?
Yeah, as far as specific one within stock photography, yeah, I would say do not. So early on, it's going to seem like a lot of money to buy if you're wanting to buy camera equipment like Canon or Nikon or anything like that. I think the biggest jump we made of getting photos accepted was buying prime lenses. So if you're looking into that, there's a bunch of lenses out there that are cheap. Like there's three different levels of lenses. So there's like basic cheap levels, there's mid level, and there's prime. If you can skip the cheap levels, your photos will be instantly better. So I would say there's some of that is the equipment. So just keep that in mind. The better equipment you can buy and you can afford, the more likely you'll get those accepted, because all that data is stored on these photos. So if you're shooting something on a really cheap camera equipment, it better be really, really good, because the curator can see all that info. And then I would say you have more flexibility if you have nicer equipment. So I don't know if that helps at all, but that's one failure I realized once we bought the nicer equipment. I think it made a big difference, and obviously it was coupled with us having experience. But that's one tip. If you can skip the cheap equipment early on, it will help alleviate some of those early on photo failures.
Yeah, there's a saying, and I think it's a wise saying. There's nothing more expensive than cheap. You might
Yeah,
think you are saving money by buying something cheap, but if it wears out or if it doesn't work as well as it should, it's expensive because you're going to have to buy the same thing over again and do it right the first time. I always try to teach all my kids, like when they're cleaning the house, like sweeping the floor, I'm like, do it right the first time, because then you have to go do it over again and
exactly.
you're just doubling the time, let alone if you're going to be buying something, just like what we're talking about. I think it's a great piece of wisdom. If you're going to go buy something, err on the side of spending a little bit more getting the better quality stuff, because in the end you're not going to have to buy it again. It's like you buy the cheap one, you're going to need to buy it all over again. So, man, Justin, this is great. I really appreciate your time. I hope everybody checks out your podcast. I think it's a great one. I love learning from my failures as well as everybody else's. So thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Dustin, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure, and thanks for all you do as well. Love your podcast. I'm going to keep listening to it.